And the problem is we have a short time together and you're thinking, well, he's saying give stuff away. That's one way to handle it. One way to handle it. But why not use a little compassion? Why not a little bit of ingenuity, spontaneity? Why not? I'm speaking in Denver, Colorado, some 20 years ago, I guess it's been, and I needed a battery for my wireless mic. No problem, I'd just go get one. Well, there was a problem, and the problem was it was 5 degrees outside. With the wind chill factor, it was 25 below. For this Texan's thin blood, that is colder than kraut. I don't know what my grandmother said that. I don't know why I say it. You're always a product of your environment. They were on the radio saying if you don't have to go out, don't. They said if you're elderly or have respiratory problems, not only would it be uncomfortable, but it could be dangerous. Well, I'm not elderly, and I don't have respiratory problems, and I needed the battery for my wireless mic, so I bundled myself up as best I could. Unfortunately, they had had an ice storm a couple of days previous. Half of downtown Denver was a sheet of black ice. It was bitter cold. It was extremely dangerous. I got about a block from the convention center. I was about ready to turn around when I looked up and I saw a store. One store had its sign on. It was 7-Eleven. Do y'all know 7-Eleven, the convenience store people? Let me be blunt about this. I do not expect what I call positively outrageous service at a convenience store. At a convenience store, if I don't hear gunfire, I'm satisfied. Walked in, there were 2 people in that store. One was behind the counter. She had dark skin, almond eyes, dark hair, every hair in place. She had a crisply pressed and starched 7-Eleven uniform. She had a brass name tag that said Roberta. But the thing that I recall most about Roberta was she had a smile that made the whole world seem instantly warmer, and I had the idea that if I had a business in Denver, Colorado, I'd be down there recruiting Roberta. Didn't think any more of it. Saw one other person in that store, very tall, very elderly gentleman. I'm going to guess that at one time this guy might have been 6'2", maybe 6'3", but now, and I'm just guessing here, in his mid-80s, he was all hunched over. He had a lame leg, and he would kind of cast that lame leg out and lock it into place and drag the other up to meet it. He'd cast the lame leg out and lock it into place and drag the other up to meet it. And I remember thinking to myself, what's a guy like this doing out on a day like today? Because for him, it'd have to be more than uncomfortable. For him, it'd have to be dangerous. Didn't think any more about that either. Found my battery, did a couple laps to warm myself a trip back to the convention center. And then I stepped to the counter, and as luck would have it, there in front of me was this older gentleman. Have you ever had a little premonition where you kind of knew what was going to happen in the next second or two? I don't mean a big one, but a little tiny premonition kind of thing. My gut instinct said, I'll bet you this guy comes in every day. I'll bet you he buys the same thing every day. I'll bet you the only reason he does because I'll bet you Roberta is the only person that takes the time to treat him like a real life human being. And I wanted to be a part of the transaction, but I didn't want a prize, so I stepped close, but not too, and I watched it as the old man placed a banana and a muffin on the counter. A banana and a muffin. I had the bizarre thought that for a banana and a muffin, I could wait till it warmed up, say June might be fine. Then my premonition brought me back to the moment. I watched as Roberta rang up a price that I knew in my gut, my heart, this guy already knew, buys the same thing every day. He reached in the pocket of his greatcoat, pulled out a coin purse that was every bit as old as the hand that held it, and tried to hold steady but could not. He could barely squeeze it open. Roberta steadied his hand with one hand, and with her other hand she reached in and pulled out a few coins to pay for the banana and the muffin, replaced them with a few smaller coins still in change, and the coin purse closed and the hand dropped it in the pocket of the greatcoat. Then the other, tired, elderly, gnarled-fingered, age-spotted hand extended and tried to hold steady, but again could not. Roberta put the banana and muffin in a plastic bag, spread the handles as wide as she could. Then very carefully, very gently, almost surgically, but definitely lovingly, she slipped the handles over the old man's wrist. I knew what she was doing. She was trying to make it possible for her elderly friend to navigate on a cold, dangerous Denver morning, but that accomplished. She reached down and scooped up the other tired, elderly, gnarled-fingered, age-spotted hand, held them both suspended in time and space as she warmed his hands, top and side and bottom, with her own young, warm, soft hands, and when his hands were warm, I believe his heart. She reached up and pulled his scarf a little closer around his neck. Button one more button those arthritic fingers would have had difficulty with. And then with that smile that would light all of Colorado, she said, "Now, Mr. Johnson, I want you to be careful. I need to see you in here tomorrow." And with that, a very tired, very elderly, but much warmer human being turned and shuffled into a cold, dangerous Denver morning, and I said, wow. Wow, Roberta, was that an uncle or a grandfather or a neighbor or someone special? And Roberta was rightfully offended to think that I would think that only special people would get special service, and she said so. She said, why, no, that's one of my customers. And I said, well then, Roberta, that's a double wow. And she did what I can't begin to do. She rolled those big brown eyes and said, well, sir, oh, thank heaven for 7-Eleven. Yeah, you can do that. That's fine. I love that story.